Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Blue Stage and welcome back to the second talk of the day, which will not just be an exciting one, it will be an important one. That's what I just promised you before, and it's actually a fact. So, before we start with the next session, let me kindly ask you, who owns a bicycle? Who owns 2 bicycles? Maybe 3? Who has a family? Each and every person has a bicycle. Okay, so most of you own a bicycle. For what purposes? For staying healthy? Yeah? Sports, recreation. If you're bored and you don't know what else to do, you just grab the bike and drive around a little bit. Mobility, of course. I mean, we are here at the IAA Mobility. We are talking about mobility as well. But could you also imagine that a bicycle could end poverty? That's a good question, right? And that's exactly what we will be talking about in our next talk. And, well, let me introduce to you, of course, we need a big hand for our panel. So just to make sure that you all know, yeah, so that we have a perfect start for that. Please welcome our panel. We start with Shelley Bontje. She's the project manager at the Dutch Cycling Embassy. Shelley, wonderful to see you this morning. Stephanie Burkhardt, Managing Director at World Bicycle Relief Germany. Hi, Steffi. And finally, Petra Husemann-Röw, Manager at the ADFC Bayern. Okay. Just to make sure that I can see each and every person. Yeah, let's just change our seat.
Sorry.
As you can see, flexibility is the key, as always in life. Well, thank you for being here today. It's wonderful to see you all in a good mood this morning, as you can see, the audience as well. Thank you for being our guests today for this very, well, important topic, mobility as a human right, empowering people with bicycles. So, to have a start, I already asked the audience if they own a bike. Most of them do. And, well, we know each other because we had a nice video call before we could talk in person. But I think most of the audience, they don't know you yet. So, first of all, let's kick things off with a kind of elevator pitch. Who are you and what is your mission? Let's do that randomly. Maybe Petra?
Yes.
Will you start?
Good morning, everybody. I've brought you some figures beforehand, because I think everybody knows Germany is seen as a car nation, but I think we are on our way to a cycling nation as well, because as you can see, and you've asked already, 4 or 5 households in Germany own a bike, and about 50% people use regularly a bike, and we have a mode of 11%, modal split, but there are large differences. We as ADFC are the world's largest bicycle association and work on national level, state level, and local level. We have about 233 members in Germany, and we are part of the European Cyclists Federation. So our aim is to make people bike more often, and we were founded really in 1979 as a counterbalance to ADAC, which is a automobile club, like everybody knows, I think. They have a few more members. Yes, and we are working on promoting cycling, everyday cycling as well as cycling in tourism. We are offering services, we are doing surveys, and we have various schemes for certification and quality.
Wonderful. Thank you, Petra. Let's continue with Shelley. I mean, if we talk about the Netherlands, we have to talk about bicycles, right?
Yes. So I'm representing the Dutch Cycling Embassy. We have the mission to make cycling for everyone available. And with everyone, we mean everyone around the world, so including Germany, but also way further from the Netherlands apart. But also we mean everyone, doesn't matter what kind of cultural background, what kind of age, what kind of gender, or physical ability. And indeed, why the Netherlands? So I think you probably know the statistics that we have more bicycles than people. So we have around 25 million bicycles and around 17.5 million people. But those bikes are actually also being used, because it's important if you have the bike that it's also being used. So on average, we cycle 17.5 billion K per year. And that results in a lot of other positive things. Like, for example, according to the UNICEF, children in the Netherlands are the happiest children in the world. And that's really, really interesting which role cycling plays there. And as well, half of the Dutch population meets the physical requirements which the WHO sets. And especially for Western countries, we don't meet those requirements that much. And thinking for myself, I've been cycling back and forth from the city to the Messe, so I have at least 1 hour of activity every day this week. And then, as last but certainly not the least important one, if everyone would cycle as much as the Dutch, the World Economic Forum measured, which is around 1.2 K on average per day. Of course, there are extremes, but that will save 700 billion tons of CO2 emissions every year, which is equivalent of the carbon footprint of the whole of the United Kingdom. So also imagine how much impact cycling can have on the environment. So why the Netherlands? What we do with the Dutch Cycling Embassy is we share knowledge, because we feel there's still a lack of knowledge and we can all learn from each other around the world. But I also want to share the previous picture. This is also the Netherlands, if it's possible. If not, maybe you've seen it. It's a nice motorway built in 1937 nearby The Hague. So this is also the Netherlands. It's not only about cycling, and that's why I think it's also interesting to be here. We can be friends with each other and cycle and have car mobility available. For example, 82% in the Netherlands, I think, inhabitants have a driving license, compared, I think, I saw 84 in Germany. So yes, you drive a bit more of car, but just a tiny bit. But in terms of having those bicycles, the Netherlands is way above. So I think it was 85+% of the Dutchies have a bicycle. Well, it's lower than 80% in Germany. So you see a disbalance there. And I think there's still much room to grow, and it's important to think about what kind of mobility you use where. And that was the next sheet. That is the cycling paradise you probably expect when I start talking about cycling. But be aware, it's way more bigger and interesting and complex than that. And we're looking forward to the conversation. And yeah, there's so much to say, but I think this gives an impression about what we are doing at the Dutch Cycling Embassy. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. So let's find out if there are more paradises around the globe. Let's talk about the World Bicycle Relief. I can already see some statements: bicycles, freedom, power, and joy. Is that what sums it up a bit?
Yeah, thank you very much. So World Bicycle Relief empowers people in rural areas around the world with really life-changing bicycles so that they can thrive. Our vision is a world where distance is no longer a barrier to access, education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. So what we do is we build purpose-designed bicycles, like the Buffalo bicycle here, and we assemble them locally, and they're super strong and reliable, and we distribute them to children, healthcare workers, but also entrepreneurs. So what you see here, and I hope you can see it behind me, is the Buffalo bicycle, and it's just not your typical bike, whereas the recreational bikes are more lightweight and way more complex. This has been really designed to be fit for purpose, to resist the rugged terrain and the harsh climate conditions in the regions in which we operate. But I'd say combining product design with community-led programming and social enterprise, with that we really create an ecosystem around the bicycle so that we can support people to access basic needs. And just to give you a few numbers, up to date, we have distributed over 740,000 bicycles and trained more than 3,000 mechanics. But we have the goal by 2025 to distribute 1 million people, and by that empower 5 million people. That is in a nutshell what we do.
Okay, so and just in case that you want to take a closer look at the bike, unfortunately our viewers at home, they will not be able to, but I think we have the time right after our talk that you can take a closer look at this wonderful bike. But we will talk about it one more time a little bit later. So thank you all for the short introductions. Well, let's take a closer look at the panel's title. What do you mean in general by mobility as a human right? Steffi.
Yeah. Can I answer your question with a question?
Of course, always.
How did you get here today?
Yeah. By the way, she's beating me with my own weapons as a moderator that I usually use. So today I reached the trade fair by foot, actually.
Oh, wow.
So, but I took the train. So I'm from Cologne, and I took the train to reach Munich.
Yeah, and I assume all of us came here differently. Some might have walked, some took a train, a bus, a car, some probably even come by airplane. But my point is that this is not the case everywhere in the world. Not all the people have daily choices of transportation modes. And that's what I want to show with this picture, that in rural areas of the world, in sub-Saharan Africa, for example, and here in rural Zambia, there are no paved roads, there are no school buses, and there are certainly no highways. So that is the reality for 1 out of every 8 billion people in the world. That's 1 billion people. And rural populations, they have to walk on these dirt tracks, and oftentimes for hours, to access a market, a school, or a clinic. And alternatives to walking, like a minibus or a motor taxi, they are really cost prohibitive for daily use. And the impact is profound. And I'd like to give you a few statistics to illustrate that. In Zimbabwe, 57% of the rural residents fall into the 2 lowest wealth quintiles, compared to less than 1% of their urban residents. And if we look at Zambia, we see that the rural school children are half as likely to attend a secondary school compared to their urban peers. Yeah? And similar disparities exist throughout the world. And despite these challenges, rural access is often overlooked in global development. And we see that in Africa alone, there is an estimated infrastructure funding gap of approximately $100 billion. And the projects that do get funded, they're often prioritized based on their impact on continental trade and a preference for urban investment. Yeah? But there we have the issue of mobility poverty. So mobility poverty means it's the circumstance under which you are not able to thrive because you have no access to the key life-enhancing opportunities. You have a reduced ability to search for work, to generate income. You have poor access to education and healthcare. Yeah? Food insecurity, participation in society, talking about physical and family isolation. So that's where I would say cycling or bicycle mobility is really social mobility. Walking will only get you so far. And I'd like to close with a statement or a quote that I read from Mr. Diop. He's the Vice President of Infrastructure at the World Bank, and he says, quote, "Mobility is the lifeblood of communities. It's not building roads, it's empowering people," unquote.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Steffi. And, well, Petra, what is your perspective on that? We have the WBR on the one side, and now we, from the industrial countries, have maybe another perspective on that?
No, I think we have, in some cases, the same problem, because all the last years we had to do with refugees, for example. And they're coming people to our country and they don't know to ride even a bicycle, so, and they were never allowed to learn it in their home countries. And there we help as we do courses for those people, though, also to help them to do their everyday life, and they don't have much money when they come here, but then they can participate in our life, so it's the same there. Mm-hmm. And I always like to add that we have the Sustainable Development Goals in place since 2015, and now it's only 7 years left. And our umbrella organization checked on that and said 11 of these goals can be brought forward by cycling. So cycling delivers on 11 of these goals. And we, if we bring forward cycling and walking, we can solve a lot of problems we have here and we have worldwide.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see the development of cycling in the context of your organizations? What are the learnings from the past years? Let's start with Shelley.
Thank you. I think we have some classical learnings in the Netherlands that with good civil support, activism, but also really political leadership which dare to make changes, new things can happen and we can build this new future all together. So for those who haven't seen the pictures yet, I really would like to share you this lovely historical canal around Utrecht, which is famous, the Netherlands, with all the historical towns. So take a look at it. This is how it was around 1950s. And then the next sheet, please. This is how it turned out some 30 years later, because this was the future of the city. It needs to be accessible by car, and therefore it's okay to destroy public space. And there have been massive protests from the start when the city council was talking about this project. And it's almost ironic when it was finished, because of course you take a political decision and it takes some years before it's actually built. And when it was finished, the city council almost already decided we're going to destroy it again. So this is how it looks like today. The next sheet, please. And you can imagine that how much political courage you need, because this happened in 50 years of time, a cyclus of, yeah, it's a waste of money. But I mean, we should be happy that people took the courage to do this. And I'm looking forward to way more people who have this courage. And I think the civil society needs to support that. Businesses can support it. But I think it's really up to the political leaders to do it, because the market needs some guidance here as well.
Petra, same in Germany?
It's not as good. We are always looking to the Netherlands, and we say, well, we are 20 years behind, or 10, 15 years behind maybe nowadays. But yes, cycling has become more important in the last years, and in cities like Munich it has become a certain lifestyle for some people, but it has more importance also in everyday life. What happens if I've heard the news today, and if you listen, and climate change, I don't want to discuss it deeply here, but we all know we have it and we have to handle it. And the bicycle could be a mean to do it, but it's all too slowly, we say. And we notice all our politicians, they present nice programs in cycle promotion, and they offer us programs, but the implementation doesn't work well enough. And we notice lately that we have to come from another approach, the people, a bottom approach. In various municipalities in Germany, we had referendums to cycling, and I think we also have to do more campaigning, and the referendums were successful mostly. And we also sometimes have to have some forms of protest, which are peaceful, of course, but just to make our needs visible and to make us be heard, and to make it all faster.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we don't have any politicians on stage today. That would be a nice idea maybe for the next time, and then we can see how far things changed again. So, the golden middle, Steffi. Yep. Of course, it's a little bit more exciting to get to know what's happening far, far away in the world.
Yeah, thank you. But in the preparation of this panel discussion, we actually found out we're not so far away.
Okay.
I think we look at the topic from different angles, and there's different particularities and challenges. But Shelley can comment afterwards. But what we do is, what I mentioned before, is that we have this buffalo bicycle, but it is really not enough just to take the bike and hand it out or put it at the side of the street. It really needs this bicycle ecosystem that is sustainable so that we can ensure that the bicycles are well maintained and that they're rolling really for a long time. And perhaps not everyone is aware, but the availability of spare parts is really an issue in the regions in which you operate. And also you want to make sure that you get the right parts. And if it's too complex, then this is a challenge. So we do train mechanics. We do set up a supply chain that makes sure these parts are available. And we also have retail shops where anyone who's interested can buy an affordable and a reliable bike with the appropriate after-service, so to say. And of course, we really try to create as many jobs as possible and strengthen those communities from within. Our programming is really community-led, and we set up so-called bicycle supervisory committees who really make sure that the right people are selected and that the program is taken to the heart of the communities, and also that we have those local assembly and distribution facilities. And from the conversations I had with Shelley, I hear that similar situations do exist if we look at certain income groups in the Netherlands.
Yeah, if I may react, it was really nice while preparing this talk. I really love the visual, and I recognized it because I think it was 1.5 years ago, the city of Amsterdam did a research about why there's quite an inequality within the city of bicycle use. And the research was the following. There are kind of 3 stadsdelen, so city departments, where bicycle use and ownership is incredibly low, and striking for the capital city of the world that there is this misbalance. So the research focused on this city departments, and it focused on, do people, if they have a bike, why they don't use it? Or if they don't have a bike, why they don't buy one? And the research was all focused on people with a low-income household. So the research question was not, they don't buy one because they don't have the money. And there are so many different reasons why people don't buy that bicycle, which are very relatable to what you were saying. People don't dare to go to a bicycle shop if you don't speak Dutch, for example. And they don't know to how Marktplaats or something works, which is like a second-hand trading webpage. If people don't speak a language or can read or can write, it's so much difficult to access information. And even in the bicycle city of the world, perhaps, there is this disbalance between access to bicycles, which are very relatable to other places around the world. And I would like to mention that, don't forget, also in the Western world, there are people with mobility poverty. And we should work on that as much as we should do that all around the world. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. And by the way, if you want to add something, if you want to share your thoughts, just give us a sign, raise your hand, and we have the fastest hosts ever in the audience who will give you the hand microphone. And well, because of course we love the interaction. Well, an important question, and that brings us back to our title, Empowering People. We've been talking about theoretical things so far. Maybe we can show and bring some success stories or best practice, just to catch what you're actually doing and how big the power of bicycles actually is. Do you have some, Shelley, do you have a success story from the Netherlands?
Yes, I hope so. No. And I think you can always learn from things which don't go the right way. I don't always say, like, what is the success? Is it the success if you reach great numbers, or is it a success if you see progress is happening. I think loads of examples from the Netherlands, but also I want to mention, and it might link to the other stories, but we from the Dutch Cycling Embassy also provide Think Bike workshops, which are workshops where we train professionals in the fields, civil servants, other people which are interested in learning and sharing expertise with each other. And I recently was allowed to go to Accra in Ghana to host one of those workshops together with the Dutch Ministry, as well as UNEP, the United Nations Environmental Program, and one of our local partners, IAA Mobility. And there, one of the participants of the workshop, after 3 days, came up to me and said the following. And she said, I always felt inferior when I was cycling in Accra. And now I've seen the organizers of the workshop, which by chance were quite some women, 3 out of 4 were women. And I've seen the mayor of Accra, which is also a woman, supporting this workshop. She felt, I now feel so much supported and embraced. And for me, that are results which we want to make. So she really felt inferior, and now she felt like, I'm supported, I can do it, I've seen you guys doing it. And for me, that's a success.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, that kind of success story raises your motivation to just continue.
Yes, and it's also linked to this freedom, enabling freedom of traveling, getting from A to B, as we all did. We all are growing in our human being of being here and being able to meet and exchange information. But yeah, there are so many people which don't have access to all those options, not their school, not to healthcare, not to seeing friends. And that's, yeah, for me, that is, yeah, if we can enable more people to access that freedom, and I truly believe we can, because we have the knowledge, but we need to work on sharing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've brought some pictures and I've told about it beforehand. We are offering a variety of courses to help people learn to cycle or to get more secure, because, for example, we have people who have had an accident by bike and afterwards don't dare to go on a bike again. And then in a secure place, we offer them a course. And we had an older woman who said, well, I loved always to cycle, but after my accident, it wasn't possible for me, and you've helped me to get on the bike again. And also we had a young mother, a refugee mother, who nowadays can accompany her children to school and things like that, do their shopping and things like that. And we offer courses for private people as well as for companies, because as more and more people are cycling to work nowadays, though it's a safety thing for companies as well, because they want to have their people at the workplace safe and secure, and they have to offer something like that. Mm. Yeah.
That sounds excellent. Well, and I know that Steffi, you also have some success stories prepared. We can already see the first picture. So what's the story behind that one?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking, how can we best illustrate the impact of our work? Because we constantly monitor and evaluate what we're achieving and how we can increase that impact with the bicycles. And we know that with the bicycles, the student absenteeism reduces by 28%. We know that healthcare workers can visit 88% more patients. And we also know that dairy farmers were able to increase their income by 23%. But these are all numbers. And I was actually quite impressed and pleased to hear in the opening speech from Natalie Portman of this show that she said there's really an importance of storytelling to leverage the case for change. And I think that's why I'm really happy that I have the privilege to share with you these stories today, because with these individuals, we ultimately build more resilient communities. And this here is Maggie. Maggie is from Malawi, and when she was 16 years old, she became pregnant. She had to drop out of school, but she also knew that education was her way forward out of her situation. Her situation was that her husband had abused her and ultimately had left her with no money to care for her daughter. She was part of one of our Buffalo Bicycle programs, returned to school, successfully concluded the secondary education, and this is really a great joy for all of us at World Bicycle Relief to see that she's today a shop controller at one of our Buffalo Bicycle shops. And the beauty is that the bicycle still carries her and her daughter forward because her younger brother now uses this bicycle to bring her daughter to school. And today her daughter is in grade 2. So that's a beautiful story of a long-term impact of a bike. But I also want to give you a different perspective, and that of livelihoods, because that's also important when we talk about ending poverty. That is Jekten. Jekten is from the Kisumu area in Kenya, and he started in 2011, so over 10 years ago, as a test driver for World Bicycle Relief. And at the same time, he opened a bread delivery business. So every morning, 5 a.m., the big truck comes and he picks up the bread, and then he distributes it across different routes to the vendors that sell it at the market. And with the bicycle in dry season, he has done his job by 7:30 p.m. at night, and in wet season, it can take him up to 9:30 p.m. But he says in his business, reliability is really the name of the game. And having these bicycles made him increase his daily income from $6 a day to $12 a day. And today, he's owning 5 bicycles and a growing bicycle business. And I think these are just some wonderful stories to show the power of the bicycle.
Mm-hmm. But it sounds as if you have a certain infrastructure already in other countries, like you mentioned the shop that Maggie's working at. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, and maybe just to imagine what it means to have a bike over there? Can you tell us something about the costs? You have the Buffalo bike here in Munich. What is your guess, audience? How much is the Buffalo bike, roundabout? No one wants to say anything which might be wrong?
They probably don't see it properly.
Yeah. $200. Okay, let's keep that one. Correct?
Yeah, I think that's a good estimate. So we say that roughly 147 euros can put or provide a bicycle to someone in need. But what I explained before is it's not just about putting a bicycle in the hand of someone and then walk away. It's really also about creating this entire infrastructure around it of maintenance, of training people, of having the supply chain behind it. And therefore, I would say the cost increased, but that was a very good guess.
Mm-hmm. Can you maybe cite the people, what do they say in that situation that you're creating at the moment? I mean, we have a picture of this wonderful gentleman who's in a good mood. We can see he's smiling. He seems to be happy. So what are the reactions? In how far did it actually change their lives?
The people that receive bicycles, they are truly aware of what a game changer that is in their lives, and they are very thankful, and they know that now they are really empowered to take their life into their own hands, because in his case now he can be reliable and he can deliver to more vendors, but there are other people who work in agriculture, and that's the reality for most of the poorer people in the world. They work in agriculture, and if you can not access a market, or you just have to go to the nearest market where you can't get the best price, that has a severe impact on your income situation. And the people know that. So they're overridden with joy. And I think that's what the T-shirt here says. Yeah. Bicycles is freedom, it's power, it's joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and these are just great examples that we got from all of you. And, well, maybe can you give us some insights when it comes to cooperation, collaboration? How does it work? Do you see any more potential for matching things right at the moment? Yeah, whoever wants to answer, feel free.
Yeah, I can go. So the Dutch Cycling Embassy is a public-private network organization. So in that way, we definitely cooperate with all kinds of public institutions in the Netherlands, from the city level towards the provincial level to the national level, but also universities and loads of private organizations which are experts in the field of the whole bicycle sector. We see the strength in working together, because if you talk about this bicycle, it's not only the bike, so you need the manufacturers, but you also need the people that accommodate bike parking, that accommodate education about it. So it's all the schemes of things around it. And I would love to see around the world that there's more cooperation between organizations that work in this sector. And we see it happening. For example, actually, we collaborated as well with GIZ, the German the German Development Corporation, which works internationally on mobility, and they're getting more and more funds available for working on active mobility. But if you compare all the funds around the world, also in the Netherlands, also in Germany, also internationally, the amount of funding which goes to car infrastructure, harbor infrastructure, airplane infrastructure is so much bigger than everything. Like if you would have only 1% of all of that for active mobility, walking and cycling, I think the world would be so much different. And I recognize the lack of capacity of funding you are mentioning, and we actually supporting a call because as we recognize this lack of funding, we supported a call to train 10,000 people around the world in the coming 10 years, so that they actually have the knowledge to ask for the funding. Because the funders now say, we are not getting asked for funding, and we kind of want to break this apart, and we should collaborate way more with all the funds which are there for infrastructure and have active mobility in there always. So I'm looking forward to that cooperation.
Petra, do you see any more potential?
A lot of potential, because I think collaboration is key when you want to bring things forward, and most of our work is based on collaboration or cooperations. A nice example these days is we are presenting a big banner in front of one of our ministries, and you all, as I've talked before about ADAC, it's like the cars and the bicycles, and now we are talking together, and we are together with two ministries to present this banner for safety instructions, where the car has to go, where the bike has to go, and things like that. That's a small example. But then we have those certification schemes for companies, and they can't be successful if they don't talk to the municipalities, to their employees, and they listen, and they ask for their needs, and then they are successful promoting cycling in their companies. And there are different organizations we are working together with, and that makes it more easy and more successful, yes.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on this panel, and that I think what unites us is really the message that if we want to help strengthen economies and we want to enable more opportunities, and in our context, especially the rural areas, then government and funders have to make it easier for countries to improve rural access. Yeah, and that is through targeted legislation, but that is also through inclusive infrastructure investments. And that's particularly investments that increase access to affordable and sustainable transportation, like the bicycle. And to your question, there is a great need. And we know that there are solutions out there that can be scaled, but I think it needs really the concerted action from all of us. So that on one side you have this advocacy, and you have big institutional funding like the GIZ or USAID, we also collaborate with. But ultimately, yeah, we also do need funding, and we need to get the bicycles out there And we are always looking for big partners to help us realize these goals. Unfortunately, we do have wonderful partners that are also exhibiting here because they know mobility is the core, of the lifeblood of communities and of a sustainable development.
Well, thank you so much for now. Well, so many exciting information that we just got. Many news for me as well, because, well, sometimes I don't know how you feel. Sometimes you can be grateful for so many things in life. And, well, this talk just changes a little bit even my way of thinking. So we have around about 4 minutes left for a Q&A right now. And, well, maybe I just start with a question to the audience. Who do you hold responsible to, well, make it possible that people have mobility, have bicycles and stuff? So we should have the microphone, yeah, right here. So feel free, just raise your hand. Who is responsible? You can be self-critical. You can also say, well, I am responsible as well. Okay, let's do it the other way. There's a lady. Thank you so much. And, well, we take the time until the microphone comes to give her a big applause. All right.
Thank you. Well, I think mobility is responsibility of every individual, first and foremost. Once you get up in the morning, no matter what country you live in, this is where you start to get mobile. Mm-hmm. Also, independent of your physical ability, this is where mobility starts. Now, in terms of infrastructure and mobility, I think, of course, there are parties that have a bigger responsibility than others. And I myself, actually, before, when you mentioned I have a question, I do, because I am Danielle, I'm Dutch. I grew up in Utrecht. Beautiful pictures, made me feel homesick a little bit. I always get emotional because I live here in Munich, and I've lived here for 15 years. I didn't realize how my mobility as a child was influenced until I moved here and now have children of my own. And I will get emotional because earlier also when I sat in with the presentation of Ms. Glazer, I am, of course, reminded of those hometown pictures and how I got to grow up and be mobile on my bicycle. From 4 years old, I was cycling to school. And I didn't use a car until I was 18. And I was mobile everywhere. And how? My challenge here with 2 kids in Munich, 7 and 9 years old, is giving them the same experience that I had. There was a time where I wasn't actually taking my kid to school on a bike anymore because we both had a very, very close call accident. And it took me some time to realize that I actually had a post-traumatic experience there. So my challenge here is how do I get active in shaping that infrastructure? Because it's not my kids own bikes, expensive bikes. I am at the top of the food chain, if you will, entrepreneurial family of 4 that have access to everything that we could possibly want and need. Mm-hmm. So that is none of my concern here. But my problem is taking my kids out on safe streets as soon as as we leave the door, literally.
Yeah.
This is a challenge for me. Where do I go? How do I make the streets around my wealthy area safer?
The challenge for us is that we are running a little bit.
Sorry.
But just, no, that's absolutely okay. Because bicycles are not just empowering people, they are also strongly connected to us in an emotional way, and that's absolutely okay. So we have 15 seconds to react on that input. Thank you, by the way, and I think we can manage that, right?
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I can imagine it's quite a thing for you personally. And to keep it short, but please, we have a booth, Dutch Cycling Embassy booth A3E13. Please come over. And my biggest thing is safety needs to be present for people which are learning to cycle. And I would say the city of Munich can work on its junctions and safety there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Please give a big hand to our wonderful panel, to Petra, Steffi, Shelley. Well done. Thanks to the audience. Thanks for this kind of interaction. And of course, it never stops. So as soon as we leave the stage, all of the experts, they are all available for you. If you want to get in touch, if you want to take a closer look at the bike, feel free to do that. Enjoy the rest of the day here. Our program continues a little bit later at 1 p.m. on the blue stage, but make sure that you don't miss anything. You can use the app and the website for the conferences program. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you so much.